So I never believed in ghosts. I enjoyed them, but I never believed in them. And a few years ago, first time I've lived in this house a very long time, I'd never seen anything. Yes, there was always a bump in the night, but there was one year, Christmas Eve, and we treat this house like a museum. It's like a hotel. Every we check the roofs, we check the doors, we lock everything. And there was one evening when I was going up to my office. Now my office is in a place called the Ghost Room, and I had my phone on because I didn't turn on the lights, and I was coming up the spiral staircase, and we had left the back door open. And as I turned the top of the stairs, my light shone and hit what I saw as a tall woman. She must have been 6'2", 6'3". I'm about 6 foot, so she was taller than me. Very thin. She looked dressed in sort of a vintage outfit, the sort of thing that some crazy person you might see wearing. There was a bit of structure to it. It was very tight-fitting, very narrow at the waist, so very stylized. And she had the sort of Angela's Ashes haircut, the very black, curly Irish hair. And she was quite traditionally attractive, but not I would, still a little creepy looking, like definitely, what would be the term? Loco would be the look. So my light hit her. She looked like this at me, and then ear ran straight for my office. Now, this was in the darkness. And I chased after her, and I just thought she was a crazy person who had come into the house. Now, my house is big. You could easily come in here, and I might take a while before I found you. And she was just standing there. And I ran in after her in my office, and excuse me. And I opened the door, and the lights were off, and I turned the lights in. There was nobody there. Wow. And even since then, I have been in my office working late, and I can feel the vibrations of people walking back to and fro in the room next to mine. So there have been some incidents. I have a editor who works with me sometimes, and he grew up in a haunted house. And when you are exposed to this kind of thing, you become more sensitive to it. And the Ghost Room again, he was working on a color grade, and his eyes go up and he sees a figure, a shadowy figure, just come out of the ceiling and hang. Now, what you have to understand about my room, my Ghost Room, is it's got curved walls, which is very unusual. The reason it has curved walls is because it's the old medieval side of the staircases for the towers. And when the Cromwellians came here, they murdered everybody. The family members were lined up in front of those trees in front and were shot. But the servants and everybody else who was not the family were just basically hung. And they were hung and thrown off the battlements. And that curve was actually the spiral staircase, so they would have thrown people. And what he could see was the figure of someone hanging. He would never have known that. And he was British, so he couldn't have known the history here. And that room is unusual because of the shape, but again, he could never have known that that was a spiral staircase, because I didn't know until we started doing works to the room. Well, I always say that Halloween is a great night to terrify, and life is far more interesting when we can live in fear.